Shri Guru Charitra, Chapter 8, Shani Pradosha Vrata Mahatmya. Siddha Yogi continued his narrative. From Gokarna, Shripada Shri Vallabha went to Sri Shailam and did the Chaturmasa there, that is, the 4 months stay at a fixed place during the rainy season, by the monks who otherwise are forbidden from staying at any one fixed place for more than 5 days. From there, he went to Navratri, that is, Vibhuti Sangam. After spending some time there, he finally came to Kuravpur, that is, near the present Raichur. His spiritual fame spread far and wide, and devotees used to pour in for his darshan all the time. His spiritual power was such that with his mere darshan, people used to be relieved from all distress. He always radiated peace and love. The ailing used to be cured instantly. Spiritual seekers coming to him used to feel highly uplifted, their doubts clearing off like fog and darkness before sunrise. His mere glance would transport people to higher realms of consciousness and fill their hearts with supernatural joy and transcendental peace. At that time there lived in Kuravpur a learned Brahmin. His wife's name was Ambika. She gave birth to many children, but except the last one, none of the others survived. Unfortunately, that boy who survived was dull-headed, that is, retard. All efforts of his father to teach him were of no avail, as the boy had no grasping power at all. This was a cause of frustration and anxiety to the parents. The father died in dejection. Having no support, the son and mother were thrown into penury and had no means of livelihood. They had to take to begging and had to live a very hard and miserable life. They were disgusted with their life, and both of them decided to end their lives by throwing themselves into the river. As they approached the river bank with the object of putting an end to their lives, the woman saw Shripada Shri Vallabha, who came there for his bath. Seeing the halo around his face and divinity in his looks, her aching heart was soothed, and her fatalistic desperation was overcome by newborn peace, hope, joy. The compassion and love in Shripada's looks, love surpassing even that of 1,000 mothers, instilled and charged a new life in her depressed and broken heart. She fell at his feet and vented out the anguish in her heart and said, "How I wish I will have a son like you in my next birth at least." Shripada Shri Vallabha said, "So be it, mother." He added, "But you will have to observe a particular vrata. You will have to worship Lord Maheshwara in the evenings on Trayodashi Tithi, coinciding with and coming on Saturdays, which is called as Shani Pradosha Puja. It is a powerful vrata, and if dutifully performed, it will certainly endow you a son like Lord Krishna himself." He narrated the following anecdote. Once upon a time, there lived a king named Chandrasen in Ujjain. He had a friend by name of Manibhadra, an ascetic, and who was deeply devoted to Lord Maheshwara. Lord Maheshwara, very pleased with Manibhadra's devotion, gave him the celestial gem in the shape of Marakatha Linga. This gem, by its mere touch, could turn iron into gold and fulfill any wish of the person who wore it. Manibhadra gifted the gem to Chandrasena, which brought prosperity to his people and kingdom. All the kings and people of other regions came to hear about the gem. Some of the neighboring kings wanted to get possession of the gem, and they plotted and invaded Ujjain. That day happened to be Shani Trayodashi day, and the king, with his wife, was engaged in worship in the Shiva temple. Although he was told about the invasion of his kingdom by the enemy kings, he remained unperturbed and unmoved and did not leave from his place of worship. One of the cowherd boys saw the king's worship, and he also was seized with a desire to worship likewise. He picked up a round stone and started worshipping it as Shiva Linga. It was getting late in the night, but the boy remained totally absorbed in the puja. As the boy did not return home, while all his companions returned to their homes, his mother felt worried. She came searching for him and found him doing his worship. She asked him to stop the puja and return home along with her instantly. But the boy refused to move from there. The mother got furious and threw out the stone which he was worshipping as Shivalinga. The boy felt very unhappy and distressed at the sacrilege committed by his mother in her anger. He thought he should atone for it by giving up his life. Lord Shiva was very much moved by the anguish and sincere and deep devotion of the boy and appeared before him in the linga form. Dazzling with a million suns' effulgence, it was the manifestation of the Jyotirlinga, emerged by itself a magnificent temple, the Mahankaleshwara temple. The boy prayed to Shiva to pardon his mother for the sacrilege she had committed. Lord said the boy's mother had already earned great merit as she had witnessed the puja which he, that is the boy, was doing, and with such great devotion, and because of that she would be having God herself as her child in her next birth. Meanwhile, the brilliance of the light emanating from the Jyotirlinga was spreading far and wide, far up to the horizon in all directions. The king who attacked Ujjain saw the marvel and realized that divine protection was there on Ujjain and its king, and it was suicidal on their part to enter into a fight against such a king. They made peace with the king and returned to their kingdoms. Thus Ujjain remained safe, the king and the people remaining unscathed by the enemy's attack, and all due to the power of Shani Pradosha Puja. The king made the shepherd boy the ruler of the shepherd community and gifted him many villages to rule. The shepherd's mother felt very penitent for the sacrilege she had committed by casting away the stone which her son was worshipping with such great devotion. Having witnessed the emergence of the Jyotirlinga as a fruition and reward for worship done by her child, she was also filled with great devotion. In her next birth, she was born as Yashoda. As foretold by Lord Shiva, she became the foster mother of Lord Sri Krishna. This was the merit she earned by merely witnessing the Shani Pradosha Puja being done by her son. Had she done the puja herself, Lord Krishna would have been born to herself as her own son. Shri Vallabha finally said to Ambika, "If you do the Shani Pradosha Puja devotedly and regularly, you will certainly bear God himself as your child in your next life." Shri Vallabha then blessed Ambika's son. With the mere touch of Shri Pada, the boy became fully enlightened. All wisdom and knowledge dawned on him. He became proficient in all the scriptures, making the mother happy at all measure. Here ends chapter 8. Shri Guru Charitra, Chapter 9. Shri Pada Shri Vallabha blesses the washerman. Siddhayogi narrated another incident which took place during Shri Pada Shri Vallabha's stay in Kuropur. Every day in the morning, midday and evening, Shri Pada Shri Vallabha used to come for his bath to the Sangama, which is the confluence of two rivers, Krishna and Venya, that is Veni. A Rajak, that is a washerman, also used to come there daily with loads of clothes for washing. Thus he used to have Shri Pada's darshan 3 times daily. He used to wash Shri Pada's clothes daily, dry them, and thus used to serve him. Deep devotion grew in him for Shri Pada. One day it so happened that a Muslim Sultan was camping on the banks of the river. As usual, when the washerman went to the river with his bundles of clothes for washing, he saw the Muslim king and his wives bathing in the river. The women were wearing rich ornaments and precious jewelry. There were many guards keeping watch around the camp. The Rajak's eyes were dazzled seeing the glory and pomp of the king. He thought how lowly and miserable his own life was, and felt that a life like that of a Nawab alone was worth living. He started thinking how happy he would be if he also were to be born in a royal family and to be a king. His mind was brooding thus. Later in the day, when the Rajak met Shri Pada Shri Vallabha, the latter asked him what was plaguing him. Shri Pada knew what was going on in the Rajak's mind, and he had love for him because of his devotion and the services he was doing to him. Shri Pada told him that he was blessing him to be born in a royal family in his next life and to have all his heart's desires fulfilled. He further said, "If you so desire, I will make you a king even in this life. Why, even now itself." The Rajak was overwhelmed with joy for Guru Nath's solicitude for him. He said, "Lord, I am now too old for any pleasures of the world. Whatever blessings you want to confer on me, please defer them for my next birth. But please do not ever forsake me. How can I live without your darshan?" Shri Pada then said, "Let it be so. In your next birth, you shall be born in the Nawab's family at Vaiduryapura, that is Bidar. You will enjoy all royal luxuries and pleasures to your heart's content. You will have my darshan too, but not in my present form, but in my new incarnation, then as Shri Narasimha Saraswati. But remember that it is not earthly pleasures and indulgences of the senses one should covet in life, but one should even aspire for the grace of God alone, which is far above all the earthly enjoyments and attachments. Anyway, because of your devotion to me, I will grant you liberation too in your next life." Shri Pada Shri Vallabha decided a little later that he should now end his sojourn on earth in the present avatara of his. He had lighted up the lamp of wisdom. He had helped many yearning souls on the spiritual path. He had relieved the sufferings of many. He had revived that sampradaya of attaining liberation through devotion and service to the Guru and through practice of renunciation and observation of the moral codes of life. On the Dwadashi, that is the 12th day of the bright fortnight in the month of Ashviyuja, Shri Pada Shri Vallabha walked into the waters of the confluence of the rivers and disappeared just as Lord Rama had ended his avatara in the Treta Yuga by merging himself in the waters of the Sharayu river of Ayodhya. Thus ended another one of the most glorious avataras of the world. Although Shri Pada Shri Vallabha had withdrawn his avatara, yet it is known that he did appear countless number of times and still continues to do so in his very physical form to all those who have set their hearts on that holy form and offer their devotion to that form in all sincerity and earnestness. Here ends chapter 9. Shri Guru Charitra, Chapter 10. Shripad Shri Vallabha continues showering his grace on his devotees even after his Mahaprasthan. Namadharak entreated Siddha Muni to enlighten him further on the Leelas and Mahimas of Shripad Shri Vallabha, which are said to continue to be occurring even after the physical form of the avatar. Siddha Muni narrated the following anecdote, which is just one among countless such occurrences. There was a Brahmin by the name of Vallabhesh. He used to earn his livelihood in some small trade. He was an ardent devotee of Shripada and used to visit Kuropur every year for the darshan and worship of the Guru Padukas enshrined there. Once he was planning to take up a new business venture, which was fraught with considerable risk. He took a vow that in case he would succeed in the venture, through Shripada's grace, he would feed 1,000 Brahmins at Kuropur. To his joy, he succeeded in the venture and earned a handsome profit. In order to fulfill his work, Vallabhesh set out to Kuropur, taking along with him quite a sum of money for spending for the proposed feast. A group of 3 thieves learnt of his journey and followed him. They told the Brahmin that they were also devotees of Guru Nath and visited Kuropur every year for the darshan and worship of the Padukas. Vallabhesh believed them and felt happy that he had good company for the journey. They halted in the forest for rest in the night. The Brahmin fell fast asleep. The thieves dealt a heavy blow on the head of the Brahmin with a huge stick. The Brahmin opened his eyes, writhing in pain, and felt aghast to see his companions trying to kill him. He closed his eyes and prayed to Shripada Shri Vallabha mentally and uttering Digambara Digambara Shripada Shri Vallabha Digambara as the thieves dealt further blows, also inflicting knife injuries in his neck. He fell unconscious and died. The thieves seized the bag of money of the Brahmin and started to run away from there. But they were aghast to find a person with matted hair smeared with ashes and holding a trident in his hand and looking fiercely at them and blocking their way. The strange sannyasi pierced 3 of the thieves with his trident, who died instantly, and he was about to kill the 4th one also, but the latter, in mortal fright, fell at the feet of the sannyasi and pleaded, "O Divine One, please spare my life. I was actually not in that group, but just accompanied them. I pray you to pardon me." The sannyasi relented and giving vibhuti to him said, "Apply this vibhuti over the injuries of the Brahmin and keep strict watch for the safety of the body until daybreak." Saying thus, the sannyasi disappeared just as instantaneously as he appeared before. The thief was spared his life, did as commanded by sannyasi. Lo, in the early hours of dawn, and as the darkness was melting away, giving way to the light of sunrise, the Brahmin came back to life, just as if waking from a sound sleep. There were no marks of injury on his head and body. The survivor thief narrated to the Brahmin all that had happened and begged his pardon. The Brahmin, seeing also the dead bodies of the 3 thieves, realized that it was none other than Shripad Shri Vallabha Deva that had come to his rescue. With tears of gratitude welling out from his heart, he sang praise of him. The thief, completely reformed now, handed over the money bag safely with him. The Brahmin safely reached Kuropur and gave a rich and sumptuous feast to more than 4,000 people and fulfilled his vow in a much bigger way. The Siddha Muni finally said, "Shripad Shri Vallabha Deva is ever present and is everywhere, giving succor and protection to whosoever prays and offers devotion to him." Here ends Chapter 10. Shri Guru Charitra, Chapter 11, Birth of Shri Narasimha Saraswati Swami Maharaj. In the earlier chapter, it has been said how Shripada Shri Vallabha blessed the destitute woman Ambika, advising her to observe Shani Pradosha Vrata and worship Maheshwara. When she, that is Ambika, prayed to him that, at least in the next birth, she would have a son like him, Shripada Shri Vallabha told her that her desire would be fulfilled if she faithfully observed Shani Pradosha Vrata and win the grace of Maheshwara. As per that advice, Ambika strictly observed the Vrata till her death. In her next birth, Ambika was born in a Brahmin family in Karanjanagar, a town near Akola, in the Berar state. She was named by her parents as Amba Bhavani. When she came of age, she was married to a young man named Madhav, who was very pious and deeply devoted to Lord Shiva. Both of them used to observe Shani Pradosha Vrata regularly. A few years after the marriage, a boy was born to Amba. During her pregnancy, she was having divine visions and experiences. Her mind was always dwelling on holy ideas and auspicious thoughts. There was a divine lustre spreading over her body and also radiating forth from her face. And on one auspicious day, a son was born to her. Strangely, instead of normal crying, Pranavanada, the chant of Omkar, was emanating from mouth of the infant. The wise men of that village said that astrologically the boy was going to be a Mahapurusha and a great savior of the world, and he had all the auspicious insignia of God himself. On the 10th day, the boy was named Narahari. His eyes bespoke of omniscience, and his face seemed to reflect all the wisdom of the worlds. The infant was an attraction for all people of the town. Narahari's mother did not seem to have sufficient breast milk to nurse the child. She expressed this to her husband and suggested to him that he should purchase a cow for milk for the child. The child seemed to have heard it and touched with his tiny hands the breast of the mother. Lo, the breasts were full of milk. The infant was manifesting many divine miracles. Nevertheless, the child seemed to be dumb. Except the Pranavanada that emanated from his lips at the time of birth, the child never uttered any sound. The parents were afraid and were worried that the child would be dumb forever. The mother used to weep, saying, "Are we not destined to enjoy the prattle of the child?" The child used to, however, make little gestures which seemed to indicate that after his thread ceremony he would be quite normal in speech. Yet his parents were not relieved of their anxiety. To assure and comfort them, Narahari once took hold of an iron piece lying in the house and through his mere touch changed it into gold. When Narahari was 7 years old, his thread ceremony was performed, and to the wonder of all, the miracle of miracles happened. All the assembled Brahmins were amazed to see the dumb Narahari chanting Vedic mantras. The joy of the parents knew no bounds, and they shed profuse tears of joy. The mother asked Narahari to beg alms according to the tradition of the thread ceremony. Narahari said, "Mother, can I now take it that I have your permission to take to sannyasa which I very much desire? You ask me to beg alms. That implies you have sanctioned my heart's desire to take a ascetic's life." The mother was aghast at these words of Narahari, when she only meant was that he should ask for the bhiksha of the vatu from the mother as mere formality as per the tradition of the thread ceremony. She broke down into tears and pleaded as to how he could think of forsaking her and the home and take to ascetic life. He was her only child and the only hope. She pleaded that all should follow ashrama dharma and should take sannyasa only after going through the householder's life, that is, grihastha ashrama, and that alone would be the proper way. One should not skip one's responsibilities, duties and obligations, she said. She was inconsolable. Narahari said, Mother, understand me and see the truth. Saying thus, he placed his right palm on her head. As soon as he did this, the whole panorama of her previous life flashed in her memory. She remembered the boon Shripada Shri Vallabha gave her. She understood then that it was the divine Shripada Shri Vallabha who was born to her as her son now, as per the prayers she made to him in her former life. She realized it would not be possible to hold back the divine being to the confines of home for long. But nevertheless, she pleaded with him, whom she now realized as none else but the illustrious Dattatreya, to stay for at least a few more years. Here ends Chapter 11. Shri Guru Charitra, Chapter 12. Narahari taking to sannyasa. Siddha Yogi continued the narration as follows. Narahari talked to his mother on the higher philosophy of life. She had tried to tell him earlier that one should not skip one's responsibilities to the household. One should pass through the prescribed stages of life in sequential order, that is the ashram dharmas. After grihastha-ashrama only, which mellows man, his senses having been appeased, should one take to vanaprastha or sannyasa, and not before that. Narahari gave her revelation that he was not a normal mortal being who has to necessarily go through all graduational stages of life. Everyone has his own adhikara, and one has to decide by himself his course of life, using his discrimination properly. Further, he told her as follows. Life is like a bubble. Death might come at any time and snatch us away. Every moment of human life is precious and is the God-gifted opportunity for man to regenerate himself spiritually and speed up to the blessed state of self-realization. In the earlier yugas, man's life was long. The stages of life prescribed by the Shastras were all right for them. But in this age of Kali, men have a short lifespan, do not have longevity of the men of the earlier yugas. If one goes through life slowly, without taking to the pursuit of higher purposes of life, and if his life is cut short early, isn't this birth futile? One should cultivate vairagya towards worldly pleasures from early stages of life. One should not fritter away his energies in human foibles. The world is illusory. If one doesn't use discrimination and does not cultivate vairagya, he would sink into the mire of samsara and will let go the precious life to waste. One should set his mind on the goal of life and strive to achieve it from the early stages of life, because who knows when he will be snatched away by death. Losing this life without realization of God will be the greatest tragedy for man. The mother realized that the spiritual fire raging in her son cannot be smothered, and that her motherly love and attachment should not be let to hold him back from his quest for the infinite. However, she pleaded with him to stay in the home for at least a few years more, till she had another child. Narhari agreed to it and said that she would have 4 more children, 3 sons and a daughter. A year later, Amba Bhavani had twins, 2 sons born to her, and then she yielded to let Narhari leave home. While bidding farewell, touched by the tears of the parents, Narhari said, "Whenever you think of me and want me to be with you, wherever I may be, you will have my darshan." He told them again that he would have 1 more son and also 1 daughter. With these consoling words to his parents, young Narhari, who was hardly in his 9th year at that time, left his home and set out on a spiritual quest. The entire village bade a tearful farewell, just as it happened to Krishna and Balarama when they left Vrindavan for Mathura. Narhari came to the holy Varanasi, the spiritual heart center of Bharat. Every day after taking bath in the sacred water of the Ganges, he used to worship Kashi Vishveshwara 3 times a day. At Kashi, he came in contact with Shri Krishna Saraswati, a highly advanced yogi and a fully realized soul. Narhari requested Shri Krishna Saraswati to initiate him into the sannyasa ashrama. Shri Krishna Saraswati was pleased at the devotion, the austere discipline and earnestness of Narhari, and much more so with his intellectual brilliance and scriptural knowledge. Shri Krishna Saraswati recognized in him a future savant of the spiritual culture of the country, and especially one who was going to glorify the supremacy of sannyasa ashrama again, as earlier done by Sri Adi Shankaracharya of Kaladi. He was immensely happy to have Narhari as his disciple and to initiate him into sannyasa. Narhari was given by him the new name of Narasimha Saraswati. Namadharak interrupted Siddhamuni and asked why Narhari, that is God incarnate himself, needed a guru, why he should go through the formality of initiation. Siddhamuni said that Guru is the link between God and the embodied being, even though the latter may have been a divine incarnation. Shri Rama had Vasishta as Guru and Shri Krishna had Sandipani Rishi as his Guru. He gave a glorious account of the Guru Parampara originating with Lord Shankara himself. Shankara, Vishnu, Brahma, Vasishta, Shakti, Parashara, Vyasa, Shuka, Gaudapada Govindacharya and Shankara Bhagavat Pada. Thus flows the glorious Guru Parampara, said Siddhamuni. For spreading true knowledge, for the enlightenment and welfare of all, Shri Narasimha Saraswati conducted a number of Jnana Yajnas by discoursing and giving sermons, going from place to place around Banaras. Hundreds of people were guided on the spiritual path by him. A number of them became his disciples. From Banaras, Narasimha Saraswati went to Badrika Ashram forest with his disciples. Then he moved from place to place and arrived at Ganga Sagar near Calcutta. Travelling along the bank of the holy river, he reached Prayaga, that is the Triveni Sangam, the holy confluence of the sacred rivers Ganga, Yamuna and subterranean Saraswati. He initiated one Madhava Saraswati into sannyasa at the holy Prayaga. Here ends chapter 12. Shri Guru Charitra, Chapter 13. Shri Narasimha Saraswati curing the chronic stomach ulcer of a Brahmin. Namadharaka said to Siddha Yogi that, listening to the Guru's life story, he felt that it was like drinking nectar. He pleaded with Siddha not to stop the narration, but to continue with it. He said he was particularly eager to know any incident relating to Shri Narasimha Saraswati during his stay at Holy Prayag, and where he went thereafter. Siddha then continued his narration. Many more disciples flocked to Shri Narasimha Saraswati at Prayaga. Some of them were Bala Saraswati, Krishna Saraswati, Upendra Saraswati, Madhava Saraswati, Sadananda Saraswati, Dhyana Jyoti Saraswati, and also Siddha himself. He was day in and day out engaged in giving spiritual discourses and upadesha to people and drawing them and guiding them on the spiritual path. Just as during infancy he changed a piece of iron into a block of gold, now he was transforming men of clay into spiritual gems. To the common people he was preaching moral laws and religious disciplines. To Jidnyasu he was imparting Vedic wisdom. To sadhakas he was giving yogic instruction and guidance and spiritual enlightenment. He was himself as example to all. His life itself, in truth, was his message. His darshan itself uplifted men ethically and spiritually. It was nearly 36 years since Shri Narasimha Saraswati left his parental home, and his parents were anxious and pining to see him. As per the promise he had made to them, he thought he should give them the joy of seeing him. He came to Karanjanagar along with his disciples. The joy of the parents knew no bounds. His mother now vividly remembered her previous life's incidents. How Shripada Shri Vallabha blessed her, taught her about the Shani Pradosha Puja, the performance of which found its fruition in her becoming the mother of Shri Narasimha Saraswati, who was none else but the incarnation of Shripada Shri Vallabha Deva. She realized how blessed she was. Shri Narasimha Saraswati told his mother that she might not have been happy about his taking to sannyasa ashrama because of her motherly attachment to him. He told her the unique merits of sannyasa ashrama. He said it is the spiritual acme of life. It would besides liberate not only the one who has taken to sannyasa but also his ancestors for several generations. He blessed the parents, saying they would spend their last days at the holy Kashi and would certainly attain salvation and liberation from rebirth. He further indicated that his own taking to sannyasa ashrama had a very special purpose, the purpose of reviving the glory of sannyasa ashrama, the significance of which was getting missed by people because of the growing materialization outlook and way of life. Amba Bhavani had a daughter born to her after Narhari left home. Her name was Ratnai. She has also now grown up and was married. She approached Shri Narasimha Saraswati and prayed she be saved. She said the problems of life were almost crushing her. Narasimha Saraswati told her that the duty of a woman was to serve her husband as God himself. That alone is sufficient for a woman to attain salvation, he said. He also foretold that her husband would be taking sannyasa, but very much late in life, after both of them had become fairly old. He said that because of some of the sins created by her in her previous life, she was destined to suffering this life from a dreadful skin disease, but that will also be late in life. He told her that she could, however, overcome it if she made a pilgrimage to the holy Papa Vinashini Tirtha near Gandharvapura, that is the present Ganagapur. He assured her that she would have his darshan at the time of her death and she would attain salvation. As almost everyone in the town wanted Shri Narasimha Saraswati to visit their homes for bhiksha, it is said he took many forms and blessed each house by accepting bhiksha. In the span of few days he stayed in the town. Shri Narasimha Saraswati, after visiting his parents, went on pilgrimage to Triambaka and Nashik. He narrated to his disciples there the Gautami Mahima. What severe penance Gautam Rishi did to bring Ganga, that is the Godavari river, to the earth. The Godavari river is an aspect of the holy Ganga itself, and it was Gautam Rishi's penances that made Godavari to descend and come down for the purification of the land and its people. During his pilgrimages, Narasimha Saraswati came to a certain place called Manjarika on the banks of Godavari. He met one very learned Pandit there by the name of Madhavaranya. Madhavaranya was overjoyed at meeting Shri Narasimha Saraswati and sang many songs in praise of him. He sought his blessings and grace. Gurunath revealed to him Vishwarupa and then advised him to always do Manasa Puja to Lord Narasimha, that is the man-lion incarnation of Lord Vishnu. He said that all his earthly needs would be fulfilled by the grace of Lord Narasimha, and that he would attain Brahmaloka after his death. From Manjarika, Shri Narasimha Saraswati came to Vasar Brahmeshwara, that is the Brahmeshwara Kshetra, which is also on the banks of the river Godavari. There he saw one Brahmin near the river. The Brahmin was suffering from severe stomach ache for several years. He used to get unbearable pain and it was difficult for him to take food. He was fed up with his life and decided to end his life, and for that purpose he came to the river to drown himself by tying a heavy boulder around his neck. The all-knowing and omniscient Narasimha Saraswati came near him and asked what his trouble was. The Brahmin told him about his miserable condition of health and said he would not be able to bear and put up with it any longer. Shri Narasimha Saraswati comforted him by saying he had a panacea, a unique remedy for him, and he would be soon free from the ailment, and he was not to worry himself about it any longer. Just at that juncture, the Gramadhipati, the village chief of the place, a Brahmin of Kaundinya Gotra and by name of Sayam Dev, had come to the river for his bath. Seeing Shri Narasimha Saraswati, Sayam Dev was overjoyed and he prostrated at Guru Nath's feet and started singing praises for him. When Sayam Dev requested him to come to his house for food, Guru Nath told him to invite the ailing Brahmin also for food. Sayam Dev said he was afraid that the ailing Brahmin might die if he fed him, and he would then incur the Brahmahatya dosha. Hardly he had taken a little food yesterday, and he is almost in death pangs now. Any food is like poison for that poor Brahmin. Thus Sayam Dev gave out his apprehensions for inviting the Brahmin also for food. Guru Nath told him that he need not have any apprehensions any longer. Guru Nath graced the house of Sayam Dev for the bhiksha along with his disciples and the ulcer patient. The Brahmin who had not been able to eat even a morsel of food normally was now able to eat at Sayam Dev's house most sumptuously and with great gusto and relish. His chronic ailment, plaguing him for years on end, had now disappeared totally. Sayam Dev and everyone wondered at this and realized that Shri Narasimha Saraswati was none other than Bhagavan Dhanvantari himself come in human form. Here ends chapter 13. Shri Guru Charitra, Chapter 14. Shri Narasimha Saraswati rescuing the life of Sayam Deva by his grace. Siddha Muni continued the narration while Namadharaka was excitedly listening to the narrative. Sayam Dev was very happy at the darshan of Shri Narasimha Saraswati when he graced his home and sanctified it. His wife Jakhai also was very happy that Guru Nath accepted Bhiksha at their house. At that time, a great worry was weighing on Sayam Dev's mind. He told his problem to Shri Narasimha Saraswati and prayed for his guidance and help. The problem was as follows. There was a Muslim ruler of the region who was not well disposed towards Hindus and especially Brahmins. Every year, he used to call a Brahmin Pandit to his darbar and used to kill him secretly. He found great pleasure in this demoniac act. Many were known to have been killed by him thus. That year the turn seemed to have fallen on Sayam Dev as he was summoned to the darbar. He knew fully well what fate awaited him. He would never have the pleasure and fortune of Shri Guru Nath in this life. Alas, there can be no escape for him from the summons of the Nawab. Shri Narasimha Saraswati told Sayam Dev that he need not entertain any fright about visiting the Nawab, and that the latter would not be able to do him any harm, and that he, that is Sayam Dev, would be returning home safely and happily too. He further told him that he, that is Guru Nath, would be staying on at Brahmeshwar till his return. He thus sent him with his blessings. Sayam Dev reached the court of the Nawab. The Nawab felt greatly elated at the sight of Sayam Dev and the prospect of the fulfillment of his vicious scheme. But alas, as soon as these vicious thoughts started arising in his mind, he saw an apparition. He felt that a fierce-looking Brahmin with fierce looks and holding heavy weapons was attacking him and showering blows mercilessly on him. His body started seething with torturous pain. He prayed to the apparition for forgiveness and said he would never in future commit the crime of killing or causing of injury to anyone. The apparition disappeared, and in its place was standing Sayam Dev, the meek Brahmin as before. The Nawab treated Sayam Dev with great respect and honored him by giving him many rich gifts. Sayam Dev returned home most happily and with heart overflowing with gratitude towards Shri Narasimha Saraswati. After reaching his place, he rushed for the darshan of Guru Nath and fell at his feet, praying that Shri Guru Nath should remain there only forever and should not leave him. Shri Narasimha Saraswati said that it was not possible for him to stay at that place any longer. Many devotees from other places were calling him and he had to move out, he said. He added that his grace and blessings, however, will be ever with him and his family, and said that after 16 years he would have his darshan again at the holy Kandapur. From there on, Shri Narasimha Saraswati went to Vaijnath, famed as the abode of Arogya Bhavani Parameshwari. He remained there for a year in his invisible form. Here ends chapter 14. Shri Guru Charitra, Chapter 15. The Holy Pilgrim Places of Bharat. Namadharaka asked Siddha Muni why Shri Narasimha Saraswati chose to remain invisible for a year at Vaidyanath. There must have been a divine purpose for every single act of Guru Nath, and Namdharak wanted to be enlightened on this. Siddhamuni said that Shri Narasimha Saraswati was exceedingly compassionate to one and all. He used to shower his blessings and grace on anyone, often without any consideration whether the person deserved them or not. People of all sorts, good, bad, and indifferent, used to come to him. Some were often genuine seekers of the spirit. Some used to come to seek redress for their afflictions. But many used to come seeking his grace and blessings for the fulfillment of their worldly desires and ambitions, and some for fulfillment and success of their vicious schemes. Shri Narasimha Saraswati was distressed about it. What a unique opportunity they were missing, he thought. He has come down like a kalpa vriksha, and it was mainly for the purpose of the moral and spiritual regeneration and upliftment of people, but unfortunately most of the people were not able to realize this and use his presence and his grace and blessings for that high purpose. Further, he felt that although he himself was beyond all bounds of karma and all laws of nature, yet his relieving all kinds of people of their afflictions, of whosoever came to him, and thus too much superseding of the operation of the laws of karma would not be congenial to the ultimate good, and might weaken the moral order even more. Thinking thus, Shri Narasimha Saraswati decided that he should withdraw himself from people for some time at least, and accordingly took to invisible form for his stay at Vaidyanath. But before taking to invisible form, that is Gupta Rupa, Guru Nath called his disciples and told them that they should go out on pilgrimage and visit all the holy places, bathe in all the sacred rivers of the land, and should reach Sri Shailam by the year Bahudhanya and join him back there. They were not happy to leave the presence of Guru Nath, even it be for visiting holy places of the land. Guru Nath told them, it is not necessary for the disciples to be always in the physical presence of the Guru. Constant chanting of the Guru's Upadesha or the Guru Mantra and worshipping of the Guru's form in the shrine of one's heart is the real Guru Sannidhi, that is, living close to the Guru. I have got to be necessarily alone for some time, but I am indeed ever with you. Try to feel my presence wherever you will be and wherever you go. Further, for the yatis, that is sannyasis, pilgrimages constitute the most beneficial and necessary discipline. The mind gets purified and steadied thereby, and one will experience a higher state of consciousness and divine awareness. I bless you all that you will have most rewarding experiences, and surely you will all meet me at Sri Shailam. The disciples had no other option but to abide by Guru Nath's command. They, however, sought his instructions as to which holy places they should visit. Guru Nath told them the significance of the various holy places and of the sacred rivers of the land, and the special merits each one of these would confer on the pilgrims. Visits to these holy places and doing the appropriate ceremonies and rites there, as prescribed according to their respective ashramas, that is, stages in life, would wash off all sins, purify the body and mind, and in the end would confer liberation not only to them but also to 21 generations of their ancestors as well as 21 generations of their descendants. Some of the holy places referred by Shri Guru Nath and the instructions given by him were as under. Kashi is the foremost of the pilgrim centers. One should have a bath in the holy Bhagirathi, that is Ganges river there. From Kashi, one should go to Gangadhar, then Triveni, that is Prayag, Yamuna and Saraswati, Varuna, Kasavarta, Sattadruvu, Vipaksha, Saravati, Vitasta, Asini, Asikni, Marudrudha, Madhumati, Dhrutavati. These are all sacred rivers, and a bath in them will be most purifying. So also are the rivers Chandrabhaga, Revati, Gomati, Vedika, Kausiki, Sahasravakta, Purna, Bahuda, etc. bath in these rivers is equivalent to several fold Chandrayanams and other vratas and austerities. Whenever there is confluence of any two rivers, they are sacred as the Triveni Sangam. Vairacharu, Pushkara, Tirtha, Kurukshetra, Sri Shaila, Sri Rangam, Rameshwaram, Anantashayanam, Mahalaya Tirtham, Naimisharanya, Badari, Kedar, Narmada, Kakamukha, Gokarna, Ayodhya, Mathura, Dwarka, these are all Mukti Kshetras. Godavari, Bhishmeshwaram are as sacred as Prayaga. Kusa Tarpanam, Godavari, Sagara Sangam, Purna River, Krishnaveni River, Tungabhadra River, Pampa Sarovar, these are all very sacred. Harihara Kshetra and Pandharpur burn away all sins of the pilgrims. Bhima Amarja Sangam at Gangapur is very sacred. There are Koti Tirthas there. The Ashwatthya tree at Gangapur is as powerful as the Kalpa Vriksha. Near the Ashwatthya tree is Narasimha Tirtha, and northwards to it are the Papa Vinashini Tirtha, Varanasi Tirtha, Rudrapada Tirtha, Chakra Tirtha, Koti Tirtha, Manmatha Tirtha, etc. There is the Kalleshwar temple there. It is holy as Gokarna. When Bruhaspati enters Simha Rashi, the subterranean current of Ganga enters Godavari. Then it is known as Godavari Pushkara. This takes place in 12 years cycle. Likewise, when Bruhaspati enters Kanya Rashi, it is Krishna Pushkara. And also, in the case of southern rivers, each having its Pushkara in its own cycle. A bath in the respective rivers at the Pushkara time is most auspicious. Man gains his spiritual evolution thereby. Whoever baths in the Bhima Krishna river's confluence, he becomes purified and will be born as a Brahmin or as a yogi, that is, as a pure sattvic person in his next life. Whosoever baths in the Patal Ganga and will have Lord Mallikarjuna's Jyotirlinga's darshan at Sri Shailam attains liberation. Krishna Sagara Sangam, Kaveri Sagara Sangam are annihilators of all sins. Sheshadri, that is Tirupati Venkateshwara Kshetra, Kumbhakonam, Kanyakumari, Rameshwara, Dhanushakoti, Kolhapur, that is the seat of Mahalakshmi, are all most sacred places. On banks of Krishna is Bhilavadi, the place of Bhuvaneshwari Devi. At Amrapur, on the banks of Krishna river, there is a confluence of 5 rivers, that is Panchanadi Kshetra. There are also Yugalaya Tirtha, Supalaya Tirtha. Malapa river joins Krishna river, the place where sage Vishwamitra did penance. At Kapila Kshetra, Krishna river flows at Uttaravahini, that is in northern direction. Whatever penance is done there, it gains million-fold potency. Pithapur is Dattatreya Kshetra. Manigiri is the place where the 7 sages did their penance. Darshan of Ahobila Kshetram earns the merit of 60 yajnas. At the onset of the rainy season, the river waters get polluted and should be avoided by pilgrims for varying periods of time. Pilgrimage is the means whereby all past sins are washed off. An immense spiritual merit is earned. All these places are resonant with spiritual vibrations, and they enrich and speed up the men on their spiritual evolution for certain. Advising the disciples thus, giving many more detailed instructions, Guru Nath sent all the disciples on long pilgrimages. He especially told them about doing Nadi Pradakshina, that is circumambulation around the whole course of the rivers, and what immense benefit they confer. With one Nadi Pradakshina, one will have leaped away and exhausted all his karmic lives and attained liberation. While all other disciples thereafter left to do the long pilgrimage with Guru Nath's blessings, I was allowed to remain with Guru Nath to serve him. Thus concluded Siddhamuni. Here ends chapter 15. Shri Guru Charitra, Chapter 16, The Fruits of Devotion to the Guru. Siddhamuni continued with the narrative and told that Guru Nath stayed at Vaijanath for a year, he alone attending upon him. From Vaijanath, Shri Narasimha Saraswati, accompanied by Siddhamuni, visited Amba Bhavani Kshetra and lived there for a few days. At this place, a Brahmin yogi came to Shri Narasimha Saraswati and prayed to him for his guidance and help in his sadhana. He said that his mind was very restless and he was unsuccessful in concentration. He said that he had gone to one guru earlier who initiated him into a mantra, but it did not seem to help him at all. He said that he had left off that guru as he had no respect, not liking for him any longer, and that he was now seeking out another guru and requested Shri Narasimha Saraswati to accept him as his disciple. Shri Narasimha Saraswati told him that it is never proper to talk disrespectfully of the guru, and that he had committed a very great mistake in forsaking his guru. He said that it is not for the student to judge the merits or demerits of the guru. One should have implicit faith in the guru. Guru is the treasure house and abode of all knowledge and wisdom. Guru is even superior to God. The student must ungrudgingly, selflessly, dedicatedly and lovingly serve the Guru, whatever be the hardships of service. There is nothing comparable to the service rendered to the Guru. Only if Guru is pleased, gods will be pleased. If Guru is not pleased, all the gods even cannot help him a bit. Guru Bhakti and Guru Sadhana are the foundations of spiritual sadhana, and winning of Guru's grace alone is the fruition of all sadhana. Shri Narasimha Saraswati narrated the stories of Dhaumya Rishi's disciples as example and illustration of this truth, which is an anecdote from the Mahabharata. Dhaumya Rishi had 3 disciples. One was Aruni Panchal, the second was Baid, and the third was Upamanyu. Aruni was asked by the Guru to water his fields so that the cereal crop would grow well. The water had to be brought into the field through a canal from a tank which was a little far away. The tank was shallow. Aruni dug the canal and water started flowing into the field. Then unfortunately, a breach developed in one of the bunds of the canal, and the water started draining out and escaping away through the breach, thus stopping the flow of water into the field. Aruni tried his best to fill up the breach by piling up stones, putting sand, etc., but could not succeed. The water was going waste and he was worried as to how to get it filled with water. Then he got an idea. He laid down at the side of the breach, thus blocking it. The water thereby started flowing into the field. He remained there in the same position so that the field would get water. It was quite late in the night, and as the boy did not return home, the Guru was worried as to what would have happened to him, and he came to the field searching for him. He was surprised and felt glad to find the field full of water, which was never the case any time before. But at the same time, he was worried as Aruni was nowhere in sight. He called out loudly, "Aruni, Aruni!" From the waters of the canal, Aruni replied in a feeble voice, "Gurudev, I am here." The Guru reached to him and pulled him out. Aruni fell prostrate at the Guru's feet and offered his obeisance to him. The Guru was touched by the boy's unselfish devotion to him, and placing his hand on the boy's head, blessed him, saying, "May you become proficient and gain mastery in all Vedas and the Shastras." No sooner than the Guru said this, Aruni became fully enlightened, and all knowledge dawned on him in a flash. Such will be the result of Guru Seva. Thus said Shri Narasimha Saraswati to the Brahmin. Shri Narasimha Saraswati continued his narration. Now listen to the Guru Seva of Baid. Baid was asked by the Guru to till the land, sow the seeds, raise the crop and take all care till harvesting was completed and the grains were safely brought home. Vaid was working on the field, day in and day out, without wasting a single moment and sparing no pains. Due to all the labor exerted and pains taken by him, the crops came out very well and yielded a very rich harvest. Vaid loaded the grains on the cart and started to drive the cart to the Guru's house. The load was too heavy and the bullock was unable to draw the cart. Vaid was also trying to pull the cart along with the bullock. Unfortunately, the bullock got stuck up in the mire on the way and the cart wheels also sank deep down in the mud. The bullock was not able to pull the cart. Vaid was struggling with all his strength to push the cart wheels and make the cart move. In the process, he almost lost his breath and was about to collapse. Dhaumya Rishi was coming himself to see how Vaid was faring with the collection of the harvest. On the way itself, he saw the heavily loaded cart and Vaid. But alas, he found Vaid tottering on his feet and collapsing almost on the verge of death. The Guru was very much moved with the selfless and steadfast devotion of Vaid. He pulled Vaid out of the mire and placed his right hand on his head, which immediately revived him. Not only that, Vaid received a total illumination and enlightenment, and all knowledge dawned on him with the blessing touch of the Guru. Shri Narasimha Saraswati then gave account of Upamanyu's Guru Seva and Bhakti. Upamanyu was also a very devoted disciple, but he had a habit of overeating. The Guru wanted to curb this habit of his of overindulgence with food. The Guru gave Upamanya the task of looking after his herd of cattle. Upamanyu used to leave home very early in the morning along with the herd. After eating the little food the Guru gave, for the grazing grounds were far away, and only very late in the evening he used to return along with the herd. In the afternoons, he used to beg alms from the houses which were nearby and was thus having his afternoon food. The Guru, finding the boy still fat, asked him what he was eating in the afternoons. The boy told the Guru that he was begging bhiksha from the houses near the grazing fields and was eating whatever food obtained thus. The Guru said he should not eat bhiksha food but should bring it and give it to him and eat whatever he gave him. Upamanyu started doing this as the Guru said, but as he was feeling very hungry in the afternoons, he started drinking the remnants of the milk that continued to drip from the cows' udders after the calves had drunk their fill. The Guru prohibited that even. Upamanyu became very much emaciated for the lack of food. Unable to bear the hunger, one day, seeing some milk exude from some wild leaves, he drank that milk. That exudation was poisonous and it affected his nerves and made him blind. In the evening, trying to drive the cattle home and unable to find the way due to his lost eyesight, he fell into a well. As he did not reach home, the Guru came searching for him. Dhaumya Muni saw his disciple fallen into the well. He pulled him out and, moved much by the boy's truthful and implicit obedience to the word of Guru, he touched his eyes with his hand. Chanting the invocation mantra to the Ashwini Devatas, Upamanyu instantly regained his sight. Not only that, the Guru, through his blessings, endowed him with all the scriptural knowledge and wisdom. Upamanyu became a very renowned rishi. It was his Shishya by name, Udanka, who presided over the great serpent sacrifice of Janamajeya, which brought even Indra down from the heaven, along with his throne towards the sacrificial fire. It is also said that Udanka, soon after completing his discipleship, obtained from Adishesha in Patala the latter's ear kundalas and brought and offered them as the Guru Dakshina to his Guru Upamanyu. Shri Narasimha Saraswati, by these examples, taught the Brahmin the supreme importance and necessity of Guru Seva for acquiring spiritual knowledge and wisdom. The Brahmin now realized his great error in not discharging his duty to his Guru and in speaking ill of him. He felt very sad and felt he should atone for it by ending his life. Shri Narasimha Saraswati was touched by the sincere repentance of the Brahmin and told him, "Your repentance has absolved you of all your sins." He then placed his hand on the Brahmin's head. Lo, the Brahmin got enlightened with all knowledge and wisdom. Shri Narasimha Saraswati told the Brahmin that he should go immediately to his Guru, fall at his feet, and pray for his forgiveness. He said that then only the enlightenment he got now, by his grace, would become secure and lasting. Shri Narasimha Saraswati then left the Amba Bhavani Kshetra and went to Bilavadi, where there is the ancient temple of Shri Bhuvaneshwari Devi. There on the western bank of Krishna river under the banyan tree, Shri Narasimha Saraswati made his abode and stayed there for 4 months. Here ends chapter 16. Guru Charitra, Chapter 17. The blockheaded youth metamorphosed into a great Pandit. Siddha Yogi says to Namadharaka that the purpose of Shri Narasimha Saraswati's advent is for bringing about the moral and spiritual regeneration of the people of the whole land, not merely of people of a particular area of region. He was a Parivrajaka, that is a constant itinerant, never staying at one place for more than 5 days at the most normally. Like clouds moving in all directions and to even the farthest corners, only for the purpose of showering rain and to provide the life-giving waters to all. So also Shri Narasimha Saraswati, wandering all over the land, visiting all pilgrim places, was bestowing his grace on all people of different regions and of all types. He used to alleviate the afflictions of the people by his divine powers. For the spiritual aspirants, he was a Jnana Bhaskara, dispelling their doubts, illuminating their intellect, and uplifting and enriching their spirit. Every word of his, whenever and to whomsoever he uttered, had deep spiritual truths in simple and easily understood language and illustration through attested examples and anecdotes. During his stay at Audumbar on the western banks of Krishna, in the vicinity of Bilavadi, one Brahman youth from Karaveer Nagar came for his darshan. The visitor narrated his story to Guru Nath. His father was a learned scholar in all the Shastras and was a strict and meticulous observer of all religious rites. His mother also was a very pious lady. In his 7th year, his thread ceremony was performed and he was initiated into Vedic studies. Alas, he was too dull to make any progress. To add to his misfortunes, he lost both his parents when he was barely 10 years of age. He was advancing in age but without making any progress in his studies. He became a butt of ridicule in the town. Even his near relations were showing nothing but contempt towards him. A few well-wishers of his advised him that he should still try and pick up learning. They stressed the importance of learning in life. Through learning only comes wealth, happiness, respectability and fame. A learned man will be welcomed anywhere and will be received with respect by anybody. He will be honored in royal courts, in assemblies of the Pandits and the wise. A man without learning is given no recognition and will receive no respect anywhere. The youth felt greatly frustrated and desperate. He felt his life gloomy and waste. He felt that death would be far better than his living in life of humiliation. He left his village and went out wandering. In his wandering, he came across the temple of Bhuvaneshwari in Bhilavadi on the eastern bank of Krishna river. He sat before the idol of the mother in the temple and started on a fast, praying to the mother that unless she blessed him with the learning and knowledge, he would continue his fast and cut off his tongue and even his head. Moved with compassion, the goddess appeared to him in a dream and said, "Go to the other side of the bank. Shri Narasimha Saraswati, the embodiment of all learning and wisdom, is on sojourn there. Pray to him, he will fulfill your desire." The youth came to Shri Narasimha Saraswati as bid by the Divine Mother, fell at his feet and prayed that he should bless him with learning and knowledge. He narrated to him his miserable plight. Shri Narasimha Saraswati placed his hand on the head of the youth, and lo, the blockhead youth became enlightened with all scriptural learning and knowledge instantly. Here ends chapter 17. Shri Guru Charitra, Chapter 18. The poor Brahmin finds a treasure. Siddhamuni told Namadharaka that Shri Narasimha Saraswati's sojourn on the banks of the Krishna river was to sanctify the places around and to regenerate the people morally and spiritually. Shri Narasimha Saraswati visited the Panchaganga Sagar, which is the confluence of the 5 holy rivers Shiva, Bhadra, Kumbhi, Bhagavati and Saraswati, where they all meet and merge in the Krishna river. Here is the temple of Amareshwar, and hence the place is called as Amarapur. Nearby is the Shakti Tirtha, where resides 64 Yogini Shaktis, serving and worshipping Amareshwar, but unseen by others. Nearby was Papa Vinashini and other holy Tirthas. Sri Krishna Saraswati stayed at Amarapur for 12 years. This place came to be later called as Narsobavadi, that is Narsobachivadi, after Shri Narasimha Saraswati. To avoid crowds, Shri Narasimha Saraswati was living in seclusion here. In the afternoons, however, he used to go out in the guise of bhikshu into the town and ask for alms at just 1 or 2 houses. In that town lived a poor Brahmin. Added to his poverty, he had a large number of children. He used to live by alms. But when he could not get enough alms, his wife used to cook the leaves of Ghevada creeper which was growing in their front yard. Thus the creeper turned out to be the main source of sustenance for the family most of the days. One day, Shri Narasimha Saraswati came to the door of the poor Brahmin and asked for bhiksha. The Brahmin welcomed him and offered him worship duly. But as they had nothing in home that day, the wife cooked Ghevda leaves and served Guru Nath. Guru Nath ate it with great satisfaction. He blessed the couple saying, Mahalakshmi Prasada Siddhirastu, that is, may the great goddess of wealth shower her full grace on you. Then he left. But while leaving the house, he did a strange thing. He pulled to the ground the Ghevda creeper and threw it aside. The Brahmin's wife and children were very angry and furious with the stranger. ungratefully destroyed the creeper which was their main sustenance. The wife began to weep, and the children too, as they all loved and looked after the creeper with great concern and solicitude. They were all worried how they could be able to sustain themselves on the days when the Brahmin would return without any alms. The Brahmin tried to comfort his wife, saying, "God is there to feed and protect if we have faith in Him. Is He not sustaining the frog in the cavity of the stone? How does the mother get milk from her breasts to feed the child, if it is not the doing of God? Are not the birds and the animals in the forest provided their food? When God is there, the provider and providence for all, why we should bother our heads with unnecessary worries and anxieties? Without praying to Him, why wail over a tiny creeper? We can plant a branch again, and it will grow up in a few days. Everything will have a divine purpose, and everything is for our good. We should take things in that spirit. I am sure our guest certainly will not have intended any harm to us. Let us face things as they come, but with full faith in the Lord and His doings." The wife was now reconciled and calmed down. Both of them went into the yard. The Brahmin pulled out the roots of the Ghevda creeper also and started digging with the iron crowbar. There was a metallic sound as the crowbar hit some metal. As they dug out and looked in, they found a vessel full of gold coins lying buried there. They took it out and were overjoyed that the guest's blessing, Shri Mahalakshmi Prasada Siddhirastu, turned out true so soon. They immediately ran after the strange bhikshu. They found him at the Audumbar tree and fell at his feet, pouring their gratitude. Here ends chapter 18. Shri Guru Charitra, Chapter 19. Gurunath's showering of special grace on Yogini Ganas and Ganga Anuja's darshan of Kashi, Prayag and Gaya, holy triple kshetras. Namadharak asked Siddhamuni why Shri Narasimha Saraswati was always more fond of the Audumbar tree, whereas there are other holy trees like Ashwatha, etc. What is the special significance of this tree? He wanted to know. Siddhamuni explained to him as under. Due to the curse of Durvasa, Lord Vishnu had to take 10 incarnations on the earth. The curse was, of course, a boon to the world, good and subduing evil in the world. When Lord Vishnu manifested himself as Narasimha in Narasimha Avatara to protect Prahlada and for destroying Hiranyakashipu, he had to make use of his nails, that is claws, to kill him. He tore open the belly of Hiranyakashipu with his claws. In the stomach of Hiranyakashipu, there was the Kalakuta poison. The nails of Narasimha were drenched with the poison when he tore the stomach and entrails of the demon. As a result, Narasimha's nails were seething with great heat and pain. Goddess Lakshmi, seeing the suffering of her lord, plucked some fruits of the Audumbar tree which he happened to find nearby. The Lord stuck his nails into the fruit deep into its pulp. The Lord's pain was assuaged instantly by this. The Lord was immensely pleased and blessed the Audumbar tree and said it would from then onwards be as powerful on earth as the Kalpavruksha tree in the heavens. He said that whosoever would worship the Audumbar tree would get all the desires and wishes fulfilled. Thus, the Audumbar tree had become a wish-fulfilling tree from very, very ancient times. Shri Narasimha Saraswati wanted to make it even still holy now. Therefore, he chose to be always seated under the Audumbar tree. Seated under the tree, apart from granting the fulfillment of their worldly desires, he used to shower spiritual grace also and uplift them spiritually. This, the Audumbar tree, had come to acquire heightened spiritual powers too. As already said in the previous chapter, near Amareshwar, on the banks of Krishna river, there was the Shakti Tirtha wherein lived many yoginis, numbering about 64. Every day by noon, they all used to come to the Audumbar tree to worship Shri Narasimha Saraswati and then return to their place, but unseen by any. Some people were curious to know all about Shri Narasimha Saraswati, as to what he ate, how he got his food, what he did, and who all come to him, etc. One, by the name of Ganganuja, who was a poor farmer, was asked to keep a secret watch on Shri Narasimha Saraswati and find out all the facts. Ganganuja was very guileless, simple-hearted and devout person. As Ganganuja was watching clandestinely, to his amazement, he saw the yoginis coming and offering worship and doing arti, that is, waving of Kampor light, to Gurunath. He also saw that after the arti, Shri Narasimha Saraswati and the yoginis stepped down into the river. Lo, the waters of the river started receding, making a pathway for Shri Narasimha Saraswati and the yoginis to walk along. Ganganuja also followed them surreptitiously. As they reached the middle of the stream bed, Ganganuja, following behind, he saw them entering into a golden splendored city. The residents of the city, men and women, looked like angels and gods, dressed in silken and shining garments, welcoming Gurunath with Mangalarati, that is, waving of lamps. Shri Narasimha Saraswati, looking back towards Ganganuja, asked him why he followed them. Ganganuja fell at Gurunath's feet and prayed to be forgiven. Shri Narasimha Saraswati told him he should not reveal to anybody what he had just seen. Goddess Lakshmi also favored him, and he was relieved of his drudgerous life. He used to come for Gurunath's darshan every morning, afternoon and evening, and serve him for most part of the day with great love. As it was going on, one Magha Purnima, early morning, Ganganuja, while serving Gurunath, said, Gurudeva, it is said that in the month of Magha, a bath at the holy Triveni Sangam at Prayaga and Kashi is most meritorious. I heard only, but know nothing of Prayaga and Kashi, etc. Gurunath then said to Ganganuja, this Panchaganga Sangam here is itself Prayaga, and Kolhapur is as meritorious as Gaya. In and around here only exists Kashi also. All the merits of Kashi, Gaya and Prayaga can be found and gained here itself. Nevertheless, as you seem to be very desirous of seeing the northern Kashi, etc., I will show you today itself. Gurunath stood up on the tiger skin on which he was seated. He told Ganganuja to catch his feet and padukas firmly. Instantly they were in Prayaga. After taking bath there in the morning, by afternoon they were at Kashi. After bathing in the holy Ganges and having Lord Vishveshwara's darshan, by evening they were at Gaya. By sunset they were back at Amrapur. Shri Narasimha Saraswati stayed under the Audumbar tree at the Panchaganga Kshetra for quite a long time, for about 12 years. Now he decided to leave from there. Everyone was sorrowful and unhappy that Gurunath would be leaving from there. Much more, so were the yoginis. Shri Narasimha Saraswati comforted them and said, I am leaving my padukas here. I will be ever present where my Padukas are worshipped. Whatever wishes to be prayed for, offering worship to the Padukas, they will be granted and fulfilled. Shri Narasimha Saraswati comforting them all while everyone else was with tear-laden eyes, moved out from that place in the direction of Gangadhar, which is in the vicinity of the holy rivers Bhima and Amarja. Even after Guru Nath's leaving for Gangadhar, the Audumbar tree and Guru Padukas enshrined there continued to manifest Guru Nath's power and grace in the same manner as when he used to physically live there. Here ends chapter 19. Shri Guru Charitra, Chapter 20. Gangadhar's wife getting riddance from the Brahmin ghost or Brahma Rakshasa through Guru Nath's grace. In this chapter, Siddha Muni describes to Namdharaka the Audumbar Sthana Mahima, which remained undiminished and ever full even after Guru Nath's departure from there to Gangadhar. Guru Nath continued to reside there, but in his invisible form, and continues to shower his grace on whoever offers worship to the Guru Padukas at the foot of the Audumbar tree on the banks of the Panchaganga confluence at Amarapur. In a village, Shirol Gram, there lived a Brahmin couple. The woman gave birth to 5 sons, but unfortunately none survived. The woman was plunged in grief at the loss of all her sons and at the misfortune that not even a single child had survived. She started praying to Guru Nath that he should expiate her from her previous life's sins and save her. One night, Guru Nath appeared in her dream in the guise of a Brahmin. He comforted and consoled her. He said that none can escape destiny. The consequences of deeds, whether done knowingly or unknowingly. He told her further, in your previous life, there was one Brahmin of Shaunaka Gotra. You borrowed 100 rupees from him, which you did not repay. He was greatly upset about your non-payment and, in desperation, committed suicide. He became a ghost after his death and has been haunting you with vengeance in your present life. And he was the cause of the death of all your sons. The woman prayed to the Brahmin who was talking to her in the dream to tell her how she could atone for it and get freed from the haunting by the ghost. The Brahmin told her, when the Brahmin died, he had none to perform his funeral rites. It is now past 16 years since his death. You now arrange for the performance of atonement funeral rites for him and give in charity in the dead man's name the 100 rupees you owed him to any Brahmin belonging to his Gotra, that is the same Shaunaka Gotra. After doing this, you will have to do a penance for a month as follows. You take your bath at the confluence of the Panchaganga and Krishna rivers and do 7 pradakshinas around the Audumbar tree there, observing fast. You do the same again after Abhisheka to the Guru Padukas and offer your worship with all sincerity and devotion. If you do accordingly, all the sins of your past lives will be washed off and you will bear a noble and good son and your desire will be fulfilled. To this, the woman replied, O Mahatma, I can do all the fasts and worship, but how can I repay the 100 rupees? I am too poor to do that. After saying thus, she began sobbing. The Brahmin then replied, "Have faith in the Audumbar. It is none else but the celestial Kalpavriksha. Through your worship to it, all good will accrue you." The next morning after the dream, she started on her month penance. She was fasting, and after taking bath in the holy confluence and other tirthas, Papa Vinashini and Kamya Tirtha, she was making pradakshinas, that is, circumambulations around the holy Audumbar tree, and was doing abhisheka and worship to the Guru Padukas. The third night after she started her penance, the Brahmin ghost reappeared in her dream and demanded from her immediate payment of the 100 rupees. He was threatening her, would throttle her neck if she did not pay him. In mortal fright, she started running towards the Audumbar tree. She found Guru Nath standing there. The ghost who was chasing her stopped suddenly, seeing Guru Nath. The woman fell at Guru Nath's feet, praying to be saved. Guru Nath looked at the ghost and said, "Do not trouble her any longer. She took refuge at my feet, and no harm would ever come to her thereafter. If you give up your ill will against her, I will rescue you also. I will tell her to do atonement rites to you with whatever money she could manage, and relieve you from your present state. I bless you to attain to better state of life." The ghost was reconciled. Guru Nath told the woman, "You start the atonement rites from tomorrow itself. You will be freed from the sin causing the Brahmin's death. After that, every day for a week, make 7 pradakshinas around the Audumbar tree. You will have a son who will live long." At this, the woman suddenly woke up from her sleep, felt greatly relieved. She observed the instructions of Guru Nath meticulously and freed from the persecution by the ghost forever. Thereafter, one night the woman had a dream in which Guru Nath gave her 2 coconuts and said, "My child, you take these 2 coconuts. You will have offspring and will have all happiness." After the woman finished her worship as told by Guru Nath, she returned to her village. In course of the year, she gave birth to 2 sons. The woman and her husband were very happy. The children grew up. As they attained the Upanayanam age, their parents were planning the celebration with great enthusiasm. But alas, the elderly boy, just in his 8th year, suddenly died after a very brief illness. The woman broke down in grief, wailing. Her relatives tried to console her and were preparing to take the body for cremation as it was nearing sunset. But the woman did not allow them to remove the body. She was blaming Guru Nath that although she gave her 2 sons, he snatched away one of them without showing any mercy. She said, "Is this the repayment you do to me after all my vigils, fasts and worship? Is it nothing but madness on my part? I will end my life and join my dead son." At this juncture, a brahmachari came over there. He was trying to comfort and console her, talking to her about the immortality of the spirit and the evanescence of the body. Can you guess who was this visitor? The brahmachari? He was none else but Shri Guru Nath himself. He came in the guise of the brahmachari. Here ends chapter 20.